Hello all, this is Dr. Rajni Sharma, Associate Professor English. I welcome all of you in Gyandut 2.0. My topic today is on national prejudices, the great essay written by Oliver Goldsmith. My objective is to enable the students to understand this essay in a better way. First, we shall have a glimpse of the life history of Oliver Goldsmith. Goldsmith was born in year 1728 in Ireland. He graduated from Trinity College in 1749. Initially, he wanted to become a doctor, and he was an assistant to some doctor. That's why people used to call him Dr. Goldsmith. He was a very famous writer of Augustan age, and he left scarcely any ground of writing untouched. He wrote essay, novel, poetry, history, pseudo-letter, and biography at the same time. Most of his essays are published in the public ledger. He is known best for his Vicar of Wakefield, She Stoops to Conquer, The Citizen of the World, and The Bees. He wrote about 100 books, and this great writer passed away in the year 1774. Today we are going to analyze and read the essay on national prejudices. This essay was first published in British magazine in 1760. It favors international understanding and brotherhood, that is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. It criticizes national prejudices which narrow the mind of a man and way of thinking. It ends with the thought of citizen of the world, which shows that it is possible to love one's own country without hating other countries. The theme of the essay is about love of one's own country and hatred for other countries, which is natural in a man. The essay is favoring the feeling of internationalism, the idea of globalization. In this essay, Goldsmith talks about his encounter with a group of English people in an inn. They are busy in discussing the characteristic marks of different nations of Europe. He further describes how one man among them produces negative prejudices on Dutch, Spanish, and French people. In his conclusion, he declares English the best. At this remark of him, no one on the table disagreed but the writer, that is Goldsmith. He pointed at the good qualities of all these nationalities and the negative aspects of English people. He was declared to be a traitor by the gentleman. He was laughing at him. The author left the company and came home. He reflects upon the vagueness of national prejudices and concludes the essay with the message of not to be confined to petty societies of border, religion, or sect. He calls everybody to become the citizen of the world rather than confining oneself to the petty boundaries of country. Now we are going to analyze, we are having a deep study of some important extracts from the essay. We shall critically evaluate this afterwards. Among a multiplicity of other topics, we took occasion to talk of different characters of the several nations of Europe when one of the gentlemen, cocking his head and assuming such an air of importance as if he had possessed all the merit of English nation in his own person, declared that Dutch were a parcel of avaricious wretches, French a set of flattering sycophants, and Germans were drunken sots and beastly gluttons, and Spaniards proud, haughty, and surly tyrants. But in bravery, generosity, clemency, and in every other virtue, English excelled the world. Here, Goldsmith fell into the company of half a dozen of people in an inn, and they were discussing about the characteristics of several people of Europe, and They were deciding their different qualities, their different virtues, vices as well as virtues. So one gentleman is talking and he is discussing all the bad qualities of other nation and the good qualities of English people. And when Goldsmith comes to know of that, he is improving that gentleman and he is showing his broad mind among a multiplicity of other topics, because they were talking of different topics. They took occasion. We happened to talk of different characters of several nations of Europe. They were talking about the characteristics of European people, and one of the gentlemen cocking his head, cocking, straightening, he is making his head straight, assuming such an air of importance. He is showing himself to be very important, as if he possessed, as if he kept all the merit of English nation in his own person, as if he was representing whole of the English nation. He tells other people present there, he declares that Dutch were a parcel of avaricious wretches. He declares Dutch to be avaricious, to be greedy people, and French set of flattering sycophants. He declares French people to be great flatterers. Flattering sycophants means flatterers. So double epithet, double adjective is to emphasize the point. He is declaring French people great flatterers and Germans drunken sots. Sots means drunkards, heavy drunkards. They are drinking wine too much. And beastly gluttons. They are beastly means beast-like, animal-like gluttons. Gluttons who are eating too much. Great eaters. And Spaniards, people of Spain, are proud, haughty, stubborn, and surly. They are evil tyrants. They are very cruel tyrants. And in bravery, now he is praising English people because he belongs to England. So he says, in bravery, generosity, clemency, kindness, and in every other virtue, English excelled the world. English are the best people in the world. They carry with them all the good characteristics and they do not have any single negative aspect in them. In this way, the person who is a speaker, he is showing his prejudice for other countries, that they all are bad and England is all good. English people are all virtuous and other people are vicious people. So here he is showing nation prejudice for his own nation as well as for other nations. Among all the famous sayings of antiquity, there is none that does great honor to the author or affords greater pleasure to the reader. At least he be a generous and benevolent heart than of the philosopher who, being asked what countryman he was, replied that he was a citizen of the world. Their antiquity means old times. There are many famous sayings of old times, but one is doing greater honor. None other is doing greater honor means the greatest honor which does to the author and provides great pleasure to the reader also. If the reader is of generous nature, of benevolent nature, he has a benevolent heart, then he can understand the phrase, the saying of that great philosopher. When he was asked which countryman he was, he replied he was a citizen of the world. In this way, this shows the great mind of that philosopher, because he was not shrinking himself to one nation, to the boundaries of one nation. He thinks himself to be belonging to the humankind, to the mankind, to all the world. In this way, author shows his broad mind. He says that one should not limit himself to the petty boundaries. One should show himself to belong to whole mankind. I therefore told him that, for my own part, I should not have ventured to talk in such a peremptory strain unless I had made the tour of Europe and examined the manners of these several nations with great care and accuracy, that perhaps a more impartial judge would not scruple to affirm that Dutch were more frugal and industrious, French more temperate and polite, Germans more hardy and patient of labor and fatigue, and Spaniards more staid and sedate than the English, who, though undoubtedly brave and generous, were at the same time rash, headstrong, and impetuous, too apt to be elated with prosperity and despond in adversity. These are the words spoken by Goldsmith, the writer, to other people present at the table in an inn. They were discussing. We have in first stanza, in first paragraph of explanation, textual question. We have to make it clear from where it has been taken and what is the context, what is going on at that time. And in the second paragraph, we have to make word-to-word explanation. And in the third paragraph, we have to present our comments, critical notes, any special quality about that paragraph or stanza. So in the first paragraph, we shall make it clear these lines have been taken from this essay, and the writer is this, and he is sitting in an inn talking to other people who are having a whole discussion about the different characteristics of different nations of Europe, and one man is saying that English are the best and all other nations are having vices in them. I therefore told him, when he is invited, when his opinion is invited, then he makes it clear that I should not have ventured to talk in such a peremptory strain. I should not have dared. I should not have talked in such a peremptory vein, in such a strain, in such a way, as if my people are the best and other are just worst. So I should not have talked in such a way. I should have made it clear until I had made a tour of Europe and examined the manners of these nations with great care and accuracy. If I was talking in such an authoritative way, peremptory strain, authoritative way, then I should have made tour of Europe, because without making any tour, without meeting these people, one cannot know what kind of people these are. So I should not have dared to speak in that peremptory strain unless I had made a tour of Europe, several nations of Europe, with great care and accuracy. I can talk authoritatively if I am confident of accuracy, until and unless I have known by going there, by examining them, I could have told what kind of people they are. A more impartial judge, if any person is going to judge, and if he is impartial, he is not favoring anybody, if he is unfavorable to anyone's different nation, then he would not scruple, he would not doubt to admit that Dutch also have good quality. Dutch are more frugal and industrious, frugal, economical. They are very economical and they are very laborious, hard-working, industrious, hard-working. French are temperate and polite, temperate, sober. French people are very sober and polite, and Germans are hardy and patient of labor and fatigue, thakan, just tiresomeness. So French people are very temperate, sober, polite, and Germans are hardy, very hardworking, and are more patient of labor and fatigue. They are patient of tolerant of. They can tolerate labor and fatigue, tiresomeness. And Spaniards, people of Spain, are staid and sedate. They are staid. Staid means steady. and sedate means sober. They are consistent and sober than English people. English people also have good qualities in them. They are brave, they are generous, but they are rash. They are headstrong and very impetuous. And they are elated with in prosperity. They are not controlled. They are not self-controlled. They are very much happy in prosperity and very much dejected in adversity, time of misfortune. So here the writer is an impartial judge himself, and he is telling that other nations are having good qualities and English people are also having bad qualities. In this way, he is above national prejudices and he is broad minded, and this is very real because man is a mixture of both the qualities, good and evil. We are now become so much Englishmen, Frenchmen, Dutchmen, Spaniards and Germans that we are no longer citizens of the world. So much the natives of one particular sport or members of one petty society. Here the writer Goldsmith is making it clear that now people are very narrow-minded. They are restricting themselves to one small society. They either call themselves to be French people because they are from France, Dutchmen and Spaniards from France, from Portuguese, they are Germans, and they do not think themselves to be people of the world. They don't think themselves to be brothers because they belong to the same globe. They belong to the same planet, that is Earth. See, they are natives of one, they are inhabitants of one particular place. They are very petty minded. They belong to some petty society, small society, and they do not call themselves to be inhabitants of, dwellers of globe or members of grand society, because globe is grand society. All these are, all nations are petty societies, and grand society is comprehending the whole. It thinks about whole mankind, not to one place or the other. So here these lines show the broad horizon of the mind of a writer who thinks, who is discarding national prejudices, who is discarding petty thoughts, narrow-mindedness, and he is welcoming, he is inviting others also to become dwellers of globe rather than calling themselves to be members of one petty society. Did these prejudices prevail among meanest and lowest of people? Perhaps they might be excused, as they have few, if any, opportunities of correcting themselves by reading, traveling, and conversing with foreigners. But misfortune is that they infect the minds and influence the conduct even of gentlemen. I mean, they have every title to this appellation, but an exemption from prejudice, which, however, in my opinion, ought to be regarded as the characteristical mark of gentlemen. Now, this writer Goldsmith is criticizing prejudices. She says if any person is full of prejudice, then he should not be called a gentleman, because that must be the first quality of a gentleman. His birth, his high birth, his fortune, his education should not make him a gentleman. He should be declared if his mind is broad. If these prejudices prevail among the meanest and lowest of people, if these prejudices are among the minds of mean people, low people, then they might have been excused. We can forgive them because they do not have any opportunity of making themselves correct. They do not have any opportunity of reading, traveling, and conversing with foreigners. So foreigners are like aliens to them. They do not have opportunity to interact with them. So they do not know what kind of people they are, because in their veins also blood is the same. But because they belong to different society, they should not be criticized. Misfortune is that these prejudices are residing among the minds of gentlemen, educated people, people of high class, people of great fortune. And I think now author is making a great statement. He says that this title of gentleman should be uh, uh, given to those people who have exemption from prejudice, who do not have carry this prejudice among their minds, because in my opinion it should be the characteristical mark of a gentleman. Gentleman should be recognized to be a gentleman if he is free from prejudice, otherwise he should not be called a gentleman. In fact, you will always find that those are most apt to boast of national merit who have little or no merit of their own to depend on. Then, which nothing is more natural, the slender vine twists around the sturdy oak for no other reason in the world but because it has strength sufficient to support itself. These are metaphorical lines. The author is presenting a metaphor, very beautiful metaphor of tree and vine. He is presenting the idea that those people are boasting of their nation who have no quality of their own. They do not have any great quality, that's why they are boasting of their nation. Just like a vine, a creeper is depending on a tree. Why? Because it can't stand erect. It doesn't have strength enough to support itself. That's why it is taking the support of a tree. In the same way, the people full of prejudice, they are like a creeper. They are like those creepers who are taking the support of the tree, that is nation. You will find that those are most apt, they are most apt to able to boast of national merit. Those people are boasting of the characteristic of their nation who have no quality of their own to which they can depend. So they are like, it is also natural. In nature also we see the same example, because creeper is taking the support of a tree because it can't support itself, it can't stand erect, that's why it is depending on the tree. So metaphor has been presented by the writer to support his point. Superstition and enthusiasm too are the growth of religion, but whoever took it in his head to affirm that they are necessary growth of this noble principle. They are, if you will, the bastard sprouts of this heavenly plant, but not its natural and genuine branches. And you may safely enough to be lopped off without doing any harm to the parent stock. Nay, perhaps still, once they are lopped off, this goodly tree can never flourish in perfect health and vigor. Again, another metaphor has been taken by author. Superstition and enthusiasm too are the growth of religion. Author is saying that if fire is there, smoke will also be there. Good and bad qualities go side by side, but we have to control our bad qualities and we have to highlight the good qualities. Uh, just in the same way, superstition is following patriotism, just as prejudice is with nationalism, as superstition and enthusiasm also go with religion. Where there is religion, superstition is also there, enthusiasm is also there. People are so superstitious. Religion is a noble idea, but it also carries with it negative things like superstition and enthusiasm. And sometimes murders are taking place because of religion. So, though these are the natural growths, necessary, they are not necessary, but they are natural growths. Just as you will see, there are some bastard sprouts on a tree. A tree example is from botany. In a tree, there are good branches also and bastard branches also. Gardener knows which branches to cut off and which branches to keep, because if a tree is to be made healthy and very strong, then useless branches are to be cut off so that they should not take the nutrition, they should not carry all the nutrition, and by cutting those unnecessary branches the tree will be more healthy and more vigorous. In the same way, we have to highlight only nationalism. We can love our country if we are patriotic, no difficulty, nothing wrong is there, but we have to control prejudices, because these prejudices are like those bastard sprouts which should be cut, which should be controlled. And this goodly tree of nationality, it is not wrong, it is not a vice to love one's own country, but hatred for other countries which are carried by prejudices are wrong. You think that other countries are wrong, that is not a good thing. So to make this tree of nation healthy and vigorous, we have to cut off, we have to lop off those branches of unnecessary growth of prejudice. So metaphor is carried in these lines. Now we have come to the title, Prejudice. National Prejudices, the title of this essay is very correct, because the author is presenting how prejudices are harming people, and they are presenting hindrance on the path of globalization and internationalism. And the verbal meaning of prejudice is preconceived opinion about anything which is not based on reason. It is totally imaginary. National prejudice means loving one's country and despising other countries. The author is discarding this feeling as absurd and baseless. He advocates internationalism and respect for other countries too. Now, the essay is full of irony. It is ironical that educated people are full of national prejudices. So, it is highly ironical that people who have every chance to read, to travel, to widen the horizon of their mind, even they are full of prejudices. It is also ironical that author who wants to avoid dispute is invited for his opinion and then silenced by so-called patriots. Arthur was keeping quiet. He was not involved into the gossip they were doing, but he is invited by the gentleman. Then his opinion is discarded. He is commented for being just a very traitor, not loving his own country. It is also ironical that some nations are given particular characteristics as if all people are identical. The author is telling about that gentleman who is discarding other nations as if surly tyrants and gluttons and drunkards, sycophants, as if all the people are the same, while every society is having different kind of people, and every man is also carrying both vices and virtues. So the author has presented irony to just make his statement. This is a highly satirical essay. Goldsmith is targeting pseudo-patriots who are loving their own country but who are carrying just a staunch hatred among their hearts for other countries. It is very wrong, and they are just indicated, they are targeted by author Goldsmith. So-called gentlemen are carrying petty minds. Their minds are not great. They are very cheap in their minds. Religion which carries enthusiasm and superstition. The author is also targeting religion which is not healthy if it is carrying with it enthusiasm and superstition. Every religion is having some good qualities. It teaches us to control ourselves, to help others, to be benevolent, to be generous, and to be very kind-hearted. But if it is carrying with it enthusiasm and superstition, then it becomes very cheap, and author is putting a satire on that religion which is carrying enthusiasm and superstition with it. It is also thought that internationalism is anti-nationalism. There is satire in the essay when the author is presenting that gentleman who is commenting that the author is a traitor. He is thinking of other nations and he is not loving his own country. It is highly satirical, because loving one's own country doesn't mean that you should develop hatred for other countries. So the satire is presented to improve, so that readers may improve their minds by reading this essay. Now we are coming to the style of the essayist. The essay is in the form of anecdote. It is in the form of any incident which author is narrating. It is not like that formal essay. And the style is very original and graceful, because author is presenting the argument in such a way that it is interesting rather than making it monotonous. And use of metaphor and images is to illustrate the argument. Of course, literary terms have been used to carry the argument, and author is making long sentences as it was in vogue in that time. In this way, author has very good style, and he is able to present his argument in a very beautiful way, and the title National Prejudices is very appropriate, and it presents the talent of Oliver Goldsmith as a great essayist. Thank you, students.